Hello there. This net migration fiasco does not prove government incompetence, nor does it prove that the government has lost control. It shows that elected politicians have no control. Either our politicians are stupid, or they're corrupt, or they're liars, or they are lazy, or they have absolutely no control over what happens in this country. Either way, the lot of them and the establishment itself needs to be overturned and replaced. I cannot believe that an ONS report was issued this morning, and tucked away inside it was the little nugget of information that they'd just revised the figures on inward legal net migration for the year ending December 2023 upwards from 606,000 to 745,000, a whopping great increase of 139,000. That increase alone is multiples more than the tens of thousands we are blandly told by the Tory government that we'll soon see. But suddenly, out of the woodwork comes one Suella Braverman, who served as Home Secretary from the 6th of September to the 19th of October in 2022, and from the 25th of October 2022 to the 13th of November 2023. She is describing these outrageous new figures as a slap in the face to the British public, and also that enough is enough. How many more times are our past and present politicians going to scream and wail that enough is enough, while they themselves never ever did or ever will do enough? She says the PM Rishi Sunak wouldn't listen to her when she pushed for an annual cap on net migration, an increased minimum salary threshold, a cap on the number of health and social care visas, and a limit on how many dependents should be allowed in. If you are that separated from the PM and his cabinet, you should resign and then tell all. Anyway, she said on X, "Today's record migration stats show we've let in an extra 1 million people in just 2 years, a population equivalent to Birmingham. The pressure on housing, the NHS, schools, wages and community cohesion is unsustainable. When do we say enough is enough? And have we built a new Birmingham with all the associated infrastructure, both physical and social? No. And that bit about pressure on housing, the NHS and schools, etc. really sticks in my craw. That hasn't come about today because the ONS changed its counting methodology to make it more accurate. This has been going on and building for years, decades. The public knows it only too well, while politicians sat back and, as I said, did not do enough to address it. None of them. Usually hiding behind talk of xenophobia and bigotry, etc. Anyway, Braverman went on, "We were elected on a pledge to reduce net migration, which was 229,000 in 2019. Today's record numbers are a slap in the face to the British public, who have voted to control and reduce migration at every opportunity. We must act now to reduce migration to sustainable levels." Now, I've been a supporter of Braverman's in the past, but I do have to say she was at the helm for a lot of this, and would have been better advised to come out and apologise for going along with something she disagreed with for so long. But I suppose there'd be no political capital to be made from that. As I said, they're either stupid, corrupt, liars, lazy, or have no control. Is it the shadowy Whitehall mandarins that really, as most of us suspect, run the show, with elected politicians just there as some sort of public display of stuffed dummies, some of whom reach the highly recompensed position of minister so that they can be fed to the wolves whenever the blob working in its murk gets caught out, as it did today? An elite selected few hiding behind the wafer-thin veneer of a fake democracy provided by those we elect every 5 years or so, with politicians squabbling on the sidelines while the establishment busies itself dismantling the state to its own ends. Anyway, take a look at the graph of UK net inward migration since the year ending 2012. The only time this has been within this Tory tens of thousands scope was during the pandemic. But after the pandemic and when the post-Brexit rules on immigration came into force, it's gone through the roof. Now, the ONS put some of this down to the revised way they count these things, and some are pointing at the slight decline in the figures for the year ending March and June 2023 to hint that it might be on the way down. But this is a bit like inflation. Halving the level of inflation from 11% to under 5% does not mean the problem has gone away. It just means prices are still rising at an unacceptable rate, just more slowly. The same will apply with these current levels of inward net migration. Halving it from 700 plus thousands down to 350,000 is still unacceptably high. And I do know from comments on social media that many are wailing that it's all the fault of Brexit as they weep into their soy lattes. And that is patently untrue. All it shows is how inept our government has been in setting the rules, in allowing so many cheap workers and students together with their dependents into the country and then allowing so many of them to stay on with new visas. Either they were inept or they couldn't stop the blob from allowing it. They use the freedom to control our borders as a freedom to open them up. And I suspect some of it might have been to benefit certain business sectors by providing them with students or wage-cutting cheap labour. And now, as a result, the electorate is even more likely to choose a fully open borders Labour government to take the nation's reins. You just could not make it up. Richard.
So, the amount of people coming into this country in 1 year is supposed to be, well, according to the latest stats, 745,000. And that's the figure that they are telling you. And what about all those lovely persons who have evaded detection? Maybe the number could be much higher. I think you can now safely say that short of a miracle, Labour are going to win a handsome majority in the general election next year. Who's going to trust the Tories with these immigration numbers? I'm sorry. And I couldn't be happier because, as I have stated time and time again, this country needs to live through the horror of a Labour government. That will shake the country up, but in between Labour winning the next election and it collapsing the country, there will almost certainly be a revolution, both here and on mainland Europe. The people have had enough. And what has just happened in the Netherlands proves it. And that which has happened in the Netherlands could be a spark to motivate other countries into voting in a similar way. And we could see then a full reversal of immigration policies implemented across Europe. And reversing immigration won't be pretty. In the minds of these terrible so-called far-right types, the silent majority, it's not enough to stop the boats crossing. No, there will need to be a reversal of immigration. These people are just so racist, aren't they? Wanting a reversal of immigration. We can't afford to house troops, but we can afford to house illegal entrants. We have few jobs worth taking in order to form a career that will feed a family and house a family. Yet we import 750,000 people who will also be competing for those jobs. Well, those that won't dive straight into the black market, that is. If one of you should find yourself in financial difficulty, possibly losing your house, you will enjoy the concrete pillows, just like the many former servicemen and women across this country. But if you cross that little bit of water, you know where, between Britain and France, on a dinghy, you will get a 5-star hotel. And our king believes these people coming across the channel should be made to feel more welcome. Oh, and if you want to know more about our so-called king, then I suggest you watch episode 1 and episode 2 of Exposed, the Church's Darkest Secret. In particular, watch episode 2. And I'm quite serious here. You need to watch those episodes, which are both on YouTube, so you can watch those. Look those up. Look, I have zero faith left in the voting system. However, I have to back both Reclaim and Reform, even though I have some serious doubts over the higher echelons of the Reform Party's position on the mandates a few years ago. But anyway, there we go. I still urge all of you to vote Reform or Reclaim where possible, and I have much sympathy for some of the other smaller political parties in the UK, but now is not the time. It's either Reform or Reclaim, and I think it's probably going to be Reform. If we had to stop this calamity growing any further in this country, then we only have 2 real ballot box options, and I believe Reform and Reclaim are them. And they won't be fielding candidates, I believe, in the same area, but I might be wrong there. Either an immigration reversal will be done above board via the ballot box, or I fear it will be done via the silent racist, disgruntled majority joining together. And as I keep saying, that won't be pretty. But there it is. And there is more to all this. And if I'm correct, we are on an unstoppable move towards the end of civilization. End of civilization as we know it anyway. And if I'm correct in my beliefs, this won't be a bad thing for some of us. But that's a Christian thing. And if you're not Christian, you're going to get a very different outcome. I believe our blessed hope is just around the corner. And I was going to end this part here. But today, I saw something very sad today on social media. A friend of mine who built up a business, hardworking, he can't make it through the next 3 weeks. He then runs out of money and he can barely eat at the moment. And this is a professional, hardworking man. This is the situation that our country is in right now. Yet, we have money to put up people in hotels. I'm sorry. Zero reward for the hard workers of this country. Yeah. It's about time we as a society started to look at what we have lost and what we have become and what we can regain and what the politicians cannot take away from us. Anyway, what do you lot think about what has been said in today's videos? Leave your mumblings and your bumblings in the comment section below for Jeff and I to read. And a huge thanks to everyone who appreciate our daily efforts to bring you news on this channel and support us via Patreon, PayPal and Super Thanks. Links in the descriptions box below on how to support us. It means the world to us in our struggle to keep this whole thing going. Anyway, God bless you all and bye for now.